Hello, 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 and welcome to the Social Snippets show. For a minute then, I was looking in the wrong corner of the screen and I was like, are we live? Are we not live? But we are, we're here. So we are live streaming on Facebook, we're live streaming on my LinkedIn profile and also on YouTube. And once again, it's Thursday, it's 12 o'clock, and the Green Umbrella team are coming together to share with you essentially what we've been up to, what's been happening in our world, what's going on in the social media world. And every couple of weeks, we like to bring a guest on. And this week, we've got the fantastic Helen. So Helen, yeah, it's like everyone's going to point in a different place, I think. She's down there. It's not that I don't know my left from my right. It's just that the camera is mirrored and it's really, really confusing. Anyway, so Helen, we'll come to in a minute, but we should explain we have an absence this week. Emily is not with us. Emily is hanging out at the Recruitment Agency Expo. She is, I would say she's running around like a mad thing in between sessions, talking to exhibitors and that kind of thing. But Amanda, you've been with her yesterday and so far this morning. I know you've ducked out of that to join this, then you'll be heading back into Rec Expo land. Obviously this year it's online. So yeah, how's it going?
Yeah, good. So it's their first virtual Rec Expo they've done, and all credit to the team that run Expo. They're sort of in person. They do twice a year, one at Olympia, one at Birmingham NEC. So we should be at the NEC about now. Of course, that's not happened. I think when they were planning it back in, well, they start planning the October one way ahead of time, and it was always it'll happen. Corona will sort of die at death. Bad turn of phrase there.
Just remember we're live, Amanda.
We'll gloss over that, but it would have been safe for us to be together in person. And obviously it's not. So the team at Rec Expo have had to pull out all the stops and get it online, get the seminar program online, virtual stands. So we'd normally have a stand there where people can come up and ask us questions. So we've got a virtual booth there. So Emily and I have been mixing up our time between attending some of the seminar sessions. There's some really great content there. Being in the virtual booth, having meetings with people, so they come in and kind of request to contact you. You can do video calls. So hence why I'm branded as well.
When Amanda joined the call, we did comment on the fact that today she's branded and beautiful.
I've made an effort today. It's not always the case, but
so
I like wearing my green umbrella rugby shirt as well. I feel like I'm proper representing.
Love it, absolutely love it. So it is a completely different experience this year, and obviously we're covering the social media for the Recruitment Agency Expo as well. How have you kind of found the engagement? Obviously you've been popping in and out of the sessions. What's the engagement been like? Is it kind of at the same level? Is it slightly better? What do you think the difference is on the noise, if you like, around the event?
It's a really good question. I think it's hard to gauge how many people are in each speaking slot, because obviously when you walk into a seminar room, you can see, are the seats filled? Is it standing room only, or is it just not that popular? But it certainly has a feeling, from the engagement on their Twitter channel. So they're on pretty much all social media platforms, but obviously some are more popular than others. So LinkedIn and Twitter in particular, probably because it's more business and professionals on there. You go in, you sort of turn your back for 5 minutes. So when I hop back onto Twitter after this, I'll have heaps of notifications. And we want to support everyone that's supported Rec Expo as well. There's companies there that are exhibiting. There's people that have given up their time to do their presentations. So the engagement is good. And each seminar has a chat box, and there's certainly polls going on, questions being raised in there as well. So it feels like there's been some good take up, and people kind of saying there's definite pros and cons. I mean, the downside is you don't get to meet and network with people in person. I think the plus sides definitely are the no sore feet, more energy, and a bit more time. So the presentations, obviously, people can watch in retrospect as well. So if you've had to, if you've missed one because you've got a meeting, or if you watch one, you think that was fantastic, I need to go and catch up on it. You can watch it again. Of course, when they're in the flesh, they're not always recorded. So, so yeah, there's definite pros. Another big con though is that normally people rely on in-person expos to stock up on like stationery notebooks, speedy stress toys, that kind of thing. So there's no swag. There's no swag this year.
Although I had seen our friends over at Bishopsgate, I've seen them posting on LinkedIn using the hashtag for the event, basically saying, if you're missing your swag, let us know. We'll send some stuff out to you as well. So
yeah,
it's quite nice the way we're seeing other people like looking at it. And I think this is the thing, Rec Expo for us, there's like 2 or 3 events in our calendar each year that bring us, they're massive from a lead generation perspective for us. The fact that we're not there in the flesh makes it kind of tricky. But actually, if you just look at what your normal processes are, and this part, the reason why we've got Helen on, because she's like the process queen, literally. But, if you look at like your processes, how you normally approach things, and you just kind of, it's not about pushing things aside and like, throwing baby out with the bathwater kind of thing. It's about going, right, actually, what we would normally do, what we want to do, how do we make that fit? And it's silly things like that. If they get 100 messages saying, I'd love some swag, please, and it costs them, a £5 a person to get that out, to be honest, they probably save some money.
Yeah, quite possibly. There's no hotel fees if you're staying over. There's the middle night or the main night of the expos, often when a lot of the suppliers and their customers go to the pub and have a few cheeky drinks as well. So that hasn't happened. So every year, I know who's that, Christine? Who does that? But there's none of that this year either. So day 2, everyone's
networking.
Yes, absolutely, networking. But so everyone's bright and sparky again on day 2, which is not always the case.
Yeah, absolutely. So Helen, that probably gives us a nice opportunity to kind of like move towards you. Obviously you've been on Live Lunch before, people may recognize you. You're one of our freelancers, and you help us with all sorts of bits and pieces, and you're a fantastic member of the team. But outside of what you do with Green Umbrella, you've got your own business. And so do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
I have another life outside Green Umbrella as well. It's actually a far less exciting life probably to some people, because I'm a process improvement specialist, and I'm also an auditor, which we won't talk about auditing today because that really can be quite a dry subject sometimes, but somebody has to do it, so here I am. But one of the things that I specialize in is helping businesses effectively future-proof their business by just bringing some frameworks and processes and procedures to the business. And COVID has, lots of bad things have happened with COVID, but it's also demonstrated some really good, that some really good pieces can come out of it. And one of them is thinking about, I have a business, I run a business. If I can't operate, or if somebody can't quickly pick up my work and do it because they don't understand how to, then it's a waste of time, it's a waste of resource. You can lose money, you can lose clients. So one of the things that I do is just create processes and procedures that people can follow. They're not rocket science, it's really simple stuff, but that framework just provides that kind of structure in a business that lets you continue to work and move forward. At the same time, the ultimate goal is to provide what we call quality management systems, which allows you to really think about your customer as a number one priority, because everything that you do, every process, every procedure, effectively is to be to the benefit of your customer, because you're giving them good quality products, good quality service, and it all backs from that. And that's the extra work that I've done with you guys at Green Umbrella, by standardizing the processes that you've got. So taking what you do on a day-to-day basis and creating it into a framework where any one of us in the team can pick it up, and we know how to operate. So the day that some of us go off and win the lottery and sail into the sunset for 12 months, some poor devil back in the office can go, oh, I know how to create the eClincher portfolio. I know how to add people to the CRM. I know how to do all of this. So yeah, that's what I do. And I don't just, my background is manufacturing, but I don't just work in the manufacturing sector. There's a lot of service industry sectors, companies such as yourselves, insurance companies, all manner of companies that also, that use these quality management systems as a framework for their operating principles. So,
and I think it's really important you use the word framework, because it's not like this is a process. So one of the big chunky things that we do that that Helen, you've helped us with, is our onboarding process with the client, because there's so many bits and pieces involved that it is quite it could be quite a messy process if we were to suddenly dump it in someone's lap.
Yes.
But what we've been able to do is create a framework, which means that if someone comes in and things are slightly different in their scenario, actually we can still work to the process. It's not like it's totally rigid and we can't step outside of that.
No, absolutely. And that's that's a really, really valid point. This is a framework, and there are going to be times where you have to operate outside it. You're going to have to do something different, and this allows you that flexibility, so you can still be that flexible. No, you don't want to do it all the time because there's extra time associated with that, but actually having that flexibility by using the framework completely allows you to do that. Yeah.
So Jane, it's you that sort of worked closely with Helen on this. So are there any things that kind of popped up in? So all of our processes have been documented for years and years and years when it comes to working with our freelancers. But actually, we were looking at things and we realised that our client-facing stuff that we deal with the small team here at head office, that stuff hadn't been documented. And where, in lockdown, we were looking at things, how can we be more efficient? Are there things we can automate to make our lives easier without losing the personal touch? And that's when we brought Helen in to do that work. And so, Jane, when you were looking at that with Helen, is there anything that kind of popped up that made you think differently, or the approach that you needed to take? Is there anything that you want to share?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been interesting actually, because a long time ago I used to work in a big company, and we went through a sort of big ISO 9001 process, and I do remember it, but you sort of don't think of it in terms of big companies, not necessarily in terms of little companies. So like you said, we didn't really have those processes documented. They were scrolled out effectively in a Word document, so there was something there, but not something that was as easy for someone else to follow. So, but the thing I found quite interesting working on this with Helen is sort of you start writing down what you do, and you realise it's getting longer and longer and longer. Quite so much when we do this. So the conversation I've been having with Helen is about how you split that up, what goes in the top level process and how you decide what goes into the sub processes while still keeping that framework, as you said, so that someone can follow it. So yeah, Helena, how have you been deciding on those?
Well, that's it exactly. And nobody can read this, but Jane and I have literally got pages and pages and pages of processes to come up with the top level process that we created. And it's only actually how you come up with it, I think it's only actually when you start to map it and write it down that all of a sudden you look at it and you say, we're saying that we're going to, I don't know, let's take for for example, we're going to create a new client's folder in our CRM. How do you do that? And you don't want to put it on this top level process. On this top level one, you're saying, yeah, we need to create one, we need to make one. But underneath that, that's where these next layers come in that say, yeah, I need to know how to do that, because that's not just the responsibility of one person. Several people in the business need to understand how to do that. And if you want to make your business scalable, then all of a sudden you don't want to be one person doing something. You might want several people who are also able to perform that task, and you want them to be able to do it right first time, every time, not make mistakes. So that's where you start to decide what those sub processes look like. And it's more than usual that, you know, that you have a top level and then you've got, you know, maybe a couple of layers underneath. You probably won't go down much further than that. But just these operating instructions, they're not quite as, you know, they're not as large as the top layer framework and process, but they are a set of instructions that just tell somebody. So maybe somebody new that's been hired to come into the business, and this is their job. They can pick this up on day one and just work through it, and they'll know exactly what to do. And actually, I think you made the point before, Christina, that, you know, I've been with Green Umbrella for about 12 months now, I think. And when I first came into Green Umbrella, we have, as social mediators, this fantastic pack that tells us, you know, what to do. It's got hacks, it's got great tips, it's got how to do the work, your weekly reports, the types of engagement that you're looking for. It's all written down and documented really well. And that for quite a few months was my Bible, and I still refer, you know, I've got it under the desk here, and I still refer to it sometimes. And it's got everything from the size of the template that you might need to create something for a LinkedIn post. You know, it has got everything you need to perform your task. So this is, you know, what the work that we've been doing with the process framework for your customer facing processes. It's exactly the same thing. And if we can, if it's as good as the mediators pack, I'll be really pleased.
So I think one of the reasons that I thought it'd be useful to have you join us is that we work with a lot of business owners who they've been doing the marketing themselves, and then they're looking to, you know, they need to not be doing that. They need to pass that on to someone else in their team. And, you know, we're saying consistency matters. It's consistency that's going to get you the results. If you take the creative element out of it, essentially you're just following a process. It is like, it's cutter, isn't it? And I think, I think this is one of the things where, you know, it's like we think about different parts of our business in different ways. When we were creating what we call the Social Mediators Handbook, it probably took a good week or so, but we got everything was documented, and it was quite an easy thing to think about. Okay, what are the functions that need to be completed essentially, and get those down on paper. Whereas looking at these, looking at these sort of more internal, more under the skin processes that we just do between us, it's been really, really hard. And I think for some business owners, looking at what they're doing from a marketing perspective, to write that up as a process, to be able to hand that off to someone else is going to be quite tricky. So what advice would you give them if they were looking at doing that?
I think if you're looking at doing that, what you need to do is take the human element out of it. So, because a lot of people will say, I'm documenting my process, but actually what they're doing is they're writing a list, and it'll be a list of, you know, that says Helen does this and Amanda does that, and it's not actually, you're not actually documenting the process. You're just saying who does what and how do they do it. So do you understand what I mean? It's not formalized in any way, and because it's not formalized, it's then you can't formally document it, and you can't say, this is the process that we are going to use. This is how I'm going to approach my marketing campaign. And every time I do it, it's going to be exactly the same. And I'm going to use the same steps. And actually, what I might do is I might tweak those steps sometimes, because I may not have a winning formula at the moment. But documenting the process allows you to understand what you do, how you do it, when you do it, and then you can almost sit back and say, does that work? Does that work every time? What would be better? What would be a better approach, or what should I keep? What could I change? So it allows you, by documenting it, allows you the opportunity to continuously improve as well. And also, you might find that for a marketing process, for instance, that something works really well for a group of clients, but actually you have to change that process and do something different for another customer base or another client base, because nobody, no two are the same. So you can't have a one size fits all for everything. Mm-hmm. But certainly not having, if you write down the process, I can guarantee that 9 out of 10 people that write down a process would just write a list. It's a list of activities, and it's quite a personable list. But it's formalizing it and creating that formal flow, and looking at the flow as well. I was really surprised when I did like the client onboarding, for instance, at the number of activities for Green Umbrella to onboard a client, and the different processes that you have to go through, and the backwards and forwards. And one of these days we might look at it and say, wow, is that actually, does everything happen in the right order? And how long does this all take? So that's the one thing that we probably haven't looked at yet is, should there be a set time for this? How long should this take? Or is it does it just take as long as it does? How long? So it's a good conversation to have to say, from the moment that we agree a client's going to come on board, to the moment that we actually set off working, creating, and it's day one, week one of the social media work. How long should that take? How long should it be?
So generally we say 4 weeks. And there are occasions where Emily and Jane gang up on me and Amanda because a client's gone, yeah, but we've got this thing happening, and we're like, that's in like 2 weeks' time. Yeah, we can get you up and running by then. It will be fine. And the reality is, the reason we say 4 weeks is there's essentially 4 weeks of stuff that we need to do in the background.
Yeah.
And it's, and certain things we do where the client needs to review content and approve it. And yeah, sometimes it's
all human. When it's based on human interactions, and particularly with clients, it's quite difficult sometimes to actually put a time-bound process together, isn't it? You can try and do it, but sometimes it's quite difficult. It's not like building a car or something.
Absolutely. Cool. Okay, so Mark, you've been very quiet. Let's pick on you. What have you been up to this week? What have you got to share with us?
It's been a mix of things, really, but obviously you blogged about it, I think, the other week. A few Christmas things have sort of started to creep into the mix. So we've got a few clients doing sort of obviously Christmas cards, but also sort of promo things, which sort of relates to the Rec Expo stuff as well. So a few clients doing sort of mouse mats and things like that, ready for the new year. So that's been a few
Scary,
bits.
isn't it? Scary, isn't it? But people are going to think about mailing them out, I suppose, or dropping them off, depending on what safety regs and local restrictions are in place, then they need them by the end of November, beginning of December, don't they? It's like a month.
Yeah. I mean, the couple of clients that we've been speaking to about the mouse mats and things, they do a bit of both, I think. So one client does still have face-to-face contact with their market anyway, so that is a bit of a handover job for them. But then the other one is going to be probably a bit of mix this year. They're not out and about seeing clients, but so they'll be posting them, and then hopefully next year they will be sort of back out a bit more. So it's been all good. But then sort of relate to Helen's stuff and processes. Obviously, we're looking at things in the background for the print kind of stuff as well. Yeah. So hopefully, we'll be relaying that back to the rest of the team.
I thought we're coming to talk about the thing we're not allowed to talk about then.
Oh, no, we're not allowed to talk about it. It's the first rule is not to talk about.
It's just a coming soon, watch this space cliffhanger.
Yeah.
We've got things that we're very excited about going on in the background, thanks to some of the work that we've been doing, identifying how to become more efficient. So yeah, it's exciting. I want to tell the world about it.
Not yet. It's not ready. Couple of weeks. Hopefully.
You're no fun.
I know. Sorry, but no, it's all good. But on the other side of things, print has definitely sort of started to come back into the mix even more the last couple of weeks as well. So I was speaking to that about client the other day, and obviously during lockdown people weren't sort of using too much of the printed kind of stuff, certainly business to business, but now definitely there's things happening, there's opportunities where people want to market themselves, whether it be by direct mail or sort of door drops and things like that. So yeah, it's all good.
Excellent. And Jane, are you still in just like burying yourself in a whole world of Facebook advertising, or have you come up for air to play with anything else this week?
I've been sorting out a few blogs and things, but yeah, really, I'm just buried in big advert campaigns for 3 different clients at the same time. So I keep my mind in the right actual product for each person or whatever. But yeah, it's been really good actually. My advert knowledge is actually getting much better because these are quite big ones to do. So it's good.
It's Jane's been working on some campaigns at the minute where we've had to be really targeted with the audiences that we create. And if you know anything about Facebook ads, you essentially have 3 types of audience. So you have a saved audience, which is something where you create and you just use like the demographic options and the psychographics, so like your interests, that kind of thing. Then you can save that and use it again and again. You've got custom audiences, which you can create based off people visiting your website or people that engage with your content or email lists, perhaps. And then you've got lookalike audiences that takes that data and basically Facebook will mine the information they have to create an audience that is essentially, maybe it's the top 5% or the top 2% of people in that location that fit that custom audience data set. And it is, once you start to get granular and you're including this audience but excluding that one, or you've got 2 audiences and you're thinking, how much of a crossover is there here? Do I use both? Do I just use one? And it's kind of, you just disappear down a rabbit hole and and it's kind of, it's really hard when you're juggling all these different audiences and testing the Facebook ads and that kind of thing to actually then come out of it and go back in again and pick up where you left off. It's the level of detail we're going into with these particular clients to get the results that we need is quite tricky. So yeah, it would seem that Jane's quiet from an internal comms perspective this week, but she's just buried in data.
I think I've worked with Jane on a couple of Facebook ad campaigns now, and the one thing that was music to my ears, I think, was was it a week or so ago that Facebook finally announced that if you had images, you could put text on your images on ad campaigns, because there have been a few clients that we've worked with and they have these, they give you these great images that have got text all over them, and you're like, I can't use it, because if I use it, Facebook will just bin it off. The algorithms in Facebook won't accept the text, and I think that change is going to really help as well, because it's quite a difficult conversation to say to somebody, look, I know what you want to say, and it's a great, you've given us a great template, however we can't use it because all we need is like one word and a picture, so all of the time and effort that you've spent is for nothing. So but Facebook, they change like the wind sometimes, don't they, and what they want to do. But that was a big learning point for me when I worked with Jade on Facebook ads, and hopefully, that will really help improve things for some of the campaigns that we do in the future, I think.
Definitely. Well, me and Amanda yesterday, or the day before, we said, all of a sudden, it was like, oh my God, we can put it on the image. We were like, how can we put this text into our advert? And then it was like an epiphany. It could go on the image.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, that's going to make the world change.
Yeah, I mean, it is. So it's that, they removed the 20% rule. So, the only sort of caveat I'd put on that is don't go mad. Don't start stuffing everything with text, because I don't think that's going to work either. But I am definitely watching the ads that I'm seeing in my feeds on Facebook and Instagram to see what differences happen, and what trends we start to see across adverts. So it's going to be interesting. Cool. So what have I been up to this week? I've been doing some training in public speaking, trying to create a world where I don't just like rabbit on and on and on pointlessly. Not sure it worked. Probably need a bit more practice. And I've been preparing. So this afternoon at 2:30. So we talked about the Recruitment Agency Expo already, but there's another event going on for the recruitment industry as we speak. And that's the supplier showcase that's being run by an organisation called Members Only. So I'm speaking for them at 2:30 today, talking about 20 social media content ideas, and I've got a few tools and things to throw in there as well. But I've only got 30 minutes. And I was putting my slides together and thinking, I should have probably done like 10 or 15 content ideas. I'm going to be whipping through that content as quickly as possible. And all being well, the lovely Simon Lewis, who I'm going to be saying lots and lots of nice things about between now and 2:30. I'm hoping he's not going to tell me off or get cross with me if I do run over, but I know the stuff I've got to share is really, really valuable, even if I do say it myself.
The thing about the virtual events is that they kind of can just cut you off at half, if you go over your time limit. It's harder in person. You kind of have to yank somebody off the stage and go, no, that's it. Whereas if it's a virtual event, they can literally press mute, or they can kick you out of the thing. So I think
that's a time-bound process. You see, they have a process there.
Yeah,
I guess cutting you off like that, it's like the proverbial old-fashioned hook coming out from the side of the.
Do you think there's a process that all the recruitment event managers like just share, and it's like how to get Christina to stop talking?
I don't think if you work to overrun, you're not going to be the first, and you won't be the last. So I wouldn't worry. And the content, we know the content you share is always a good takeaways. Lots of takeaways in them. So
I've just put Paul's comment up on the screen there. Who would dare to cut Christina off? I knew there was a reason I liked you. Fantastic. Okie dokie. So, lots and lots going on. Amanda, I know you need to get back to the expo and
I do, to help Emily out. She's on her own, running around supporting everybody at the moment. So I might dip off at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, thanks Helen so much for joining us today. Really, really beautiful.
It's lovely. It's lovely to talk to everybody out there about, the social media work and the marketing work and the blog writing. I'm so passionate about it, and it's, I really, really enjoy it. But it's great to also put my other hat on and to talk about things that I think are really important, just because it's helping everybody's business, go forward into the future. It's, if this can help people think about, what do I really want to do to sort of enhance my customers' experience, make myself more efficient, make myself more scalable, then, then that's also something I'm really passionate about talking about. So yeah, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
So what you need to do is pop your contact details in the comments on Facebook and on LinkedIn, and then we can make sure if people want to reach out to you, have a chat, they can come out to you directly. But that's cool. So we'll wrap up there. Thanks everyone, and people tuning in. Paul, our resident stalker, thank you for joining us as always. We'll see everyone next week, Thursday at 12. Unfortunately, Mark won't be with us. He's taken a break from us for a few days. He's had enough now, but he'll be back the week after, I'm sure, and we can fill him in on all the gossip then. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye.